But this is not all about the elections in the country, which is the strategic partner of our country, Georgia.
Georgi, it was very wise of you to specify which Georgia you're referring to. We also, ABC's coverage of elections in the US state Georgia, where our main avenue, Chavchavadze Avenue, came into the spotlight.
It was definitely very funny to see 55th public school in ABC's report. It made me laugh a lot.
Yeah, well, not only you. This was something we laughed about in the upcoming interview with David Kramer on US-Georgia elections and more. Did you think that Joe Biden would become the 46th president of the United States of America?
I did think he would win. I didn't think it would be as close as it was, although at the end of the process, he will likely win by more than 5 million votes. And he may wind up with as many electoral college votes, which is how we decide the outcome of our elections, as Donald Trump got in 2016. The Republicans in the House gained some seats, and the Republicans in the Senate might hold on to their majority. We'll have to wait until the two elections in Georgia, the state, not the country, in early January.
Yes, it was really funny. Did you see those videos on ABC where ABC was stating that Georgia went to elections in Georgia, and there was Tbilisi, Georgia.
How was that right? the wrong footage.
Right on Chavchavadze Avenue. It was quite.
That's pretty funny. Good. Good. Well, Georgia is on our mind. Let's put it that way.
Definitely. So, what does Biden's presidency mean to the U.S. globally and to Georgia as well?
I think a Biden presidency will be a return to some sense of normalcy, to some sense of predictability, to a more traditional foreign policy, for better or worse. However, that he is going to have tremendous challenges facing him, starting with the pandemic here in the United States. And I know that's a big problem in your country as well, but it's a huge problem here.
So what is your opinion there? What mark did COVID-19 leave on elections? Because it has left its mark both in the U.S. and in Georgia.
It has, and it's a challenge for every country. Here in the United States, I would say the problem has been a total neglect on the part of President Trump and his administration. He keeps saying we are rounding the corner, meaning that he thinks it is behind us, it is in the past, when in fact we are setting new records every day. And so I think his gross mishandling of the pandemic did contribute to his defeat. The economic situation contributed to his defeat. But I think a lot of Americans, and let's be clear, President Trump got a huge number of people who voted for him. He got more people who voted for him this time in defeat than he got voted for him in victory in 2016. But I think more Americans who voted decided they've had enough.
Do you think Biden's presidency also means stricter approach to pandemic, meaning some kind of lockdowns, everything that the rest of the Europe and Georgia also have experienced?
I don't know if we'll see a national lockdown. I do expect, however, that a new President Biden will lead by example by wearing a mask all the time. President Trump, for some reason that I simply don't understand to this day, politicized the issue of wearing a mask and essentially encourage people not to wear them.
Let me read out loud to you what one of the leading investment banks in Georgia wrote in its official recent review, what is possible if Mr. Biden wins the presidency. So what TBC wrote is that if Biden wins, it is possible for the US to continue disputes with China, but with more predictability, restrain from imposing tariffs on EU and other advanced economies, impose stricter measures to contain COVID-19, which we already spoke about, have higher fiscal spending on social policy, green initiatives and infrastructure, most probably leading to an increase in taxes, return to US leadership globally with more international cooperation, more support to NATO, and stronger push against Russia. Does that seem accurate?
I think that is a good summary. The part about taxes, though, to be clear, at least during the campaign, candidate Biden said the increase in taxes would only apply to those who make more than $400,000 a year. So that does not mean the average citizen, just to put that in perspective. I think we will treat our allies and our friends as allies and friends. President Trump, in my view, has not done so. I think we will respect the European Union as an entity that has done much more good than harm. And we will recognize NATO as the most successful military alliance over the past 7 decades in preserving the peace on a European continent that has seen far too much bloodshed. And I hope that the Biden administration will continue a policy, to be fair, that Vice President Mike Pence stated when he visited Tbilisi in the summer of 2017, that the United States continues to support Georgia's membership in NATO. We also, I think, will continue to support Georgia's membership in the European Union. We're not a member of the European Union, so we have no real say in that matter. But I think that the United States will increase its support for Georgia and Ukraine, for the people of Belarus, not the regime, for the people of other countries in the region that are struggling for democracy and human rights. And I don't think you will see President Biden have any reluctance to criticize Russia's Vladimir Putin, as President Trump has shown for the past, not just 4 years, but including when he was a candidate. And I do think that we will see a tougher approach toward Russia than we have seen in the past. And I hope that applies to Russia's creeping annexation in Georgia and continued occupation of Georgian territory as well. Georgia often gets forgotten when there's talk about sanctions, because there had been no sanctions imposed after Russia's invasion in 2008, and yet Russia occupies 20% of Georgian territory for all intents and purposes. So I hope there will be more attention focused there.
Do you follow the events that are unfolding in Georgia?
Yes,
What is your
yes,
take
with
on
great
that?
concern. Georgia can't afford, the country cannot afford to have this chaos and this tension in the country. The Georgian dream has tried to portray the reaction of the international community to the elections as very positive, and it wasn't very positive. It praised certain parts of it. It said fundamental freedoms were respected. But there are some serious allegations of irregularities, and people have a right to protest peacefully. Now, I underscore the word peacefully, but the use of water cannons on protesters in Tbilisi in front of the Central Election Commission came without a warning, and that risks heightening tensions and escalating the situation rather than calming it down. I also think that the opposition is quite dug in, and it has indicated it plans to boycott the parliament and boycott the recounts. I don't know if that's the right position or not, and it's not for me to judge, but usually participating in these processes is the best way, but I understand the frustration. So I think Georgian Dream needs to understand it needs to find some compromise. The opposition needs to find some compromise. The only people who are benefiting from the current tensions and turmoil in Georgia right now are in Moscow. not in Tbilisi.
And lastly, just to summarize our conversation, I would like to hear from you how democracy on the one hand and economic prosperity, so to say, on the other, are interrelated.
There's no question that of all the systems that exist and have existed, democracy is the best system. It is not perfect. We see this here in the United States where we have problems. We're the oldest democracy in the world, and we have gone through some huge problems here in this country. But we have also shown that our institutions are strong and resilient. And the Chinese model is not a model to follow. Russia is not a model to follow. And when we see people in the streets in Kyrgyzstan or in Ukraine or in Belarus or in Georgia, we should appreciate that these people are out there demanding greater respect for human rights, demanding better from their government, an end to corruption, a more democratic system. Polarization is a huge problem in the United States. It's a huge problem in Georgia.
As well.
As Joe Biden said on Saturday evening, we have to recognize that our opponents are not our enemies, as he phrased it here. Our opponents are also Americans. In Georgia, the same thing. Georgia, whether you're in government or out of government, your opponents are not your enemies. They're still Georgians.
Thank you so much, and thank you for taking time and answering our questions.
I'm glad we were able to schedule this, Lynn.
We are BMG. Follow and subscribe for business and economics news.